13 hot business bandwidth options. A Telexplainer. You may think that your business has one or two options when it comes to bandwidth connectivity. In fact, you may have a baker's dozen or more different technology options to choose from and multiple vendors for each. Of course, the closer you are located to a major business district, the more variety of service and providers you'll have to pick from. Even so, there are often at least a few options available, even out in the boonies. Let's take a look at 13 hot business broadband options that you should know about. Number 1. DSL. Digital Subscriber Line is a broadband service that is delivered over regular telephone lines. It may share a line with a phone or have a line all to itself for more bandwidth. Bandwidth starts at under a megabit per second, goes up to around 7 megabits per second, depending on how far you are from the telco office. Both asymmetrical and symmetrical options are available. Number 2. Business Cable Broadband. This is very similar to residential cable broadband, but designed to serve business locations. You often get static IP addresses and more responsive customer service. Bandwidths can range from around 5 megabits per second on up to over 100 megabits per second on download and 10 megabits per second on upload. You can get just broadband or a combination of broadband, telephone, and television service. One catch is that the cable has to pass by your location for you to be connected. Number 3. Fixed 3G and 4G wireless. This is cellular broadband designed to support business applications. Specialized equipment gives you highly reliable signals. Since it uses cell tower signals, you can get the service out in the country pretty much anywhere you can get cell phone service. This option is especially popular for credit card verification in temporary retail locations and on construction job sites. Bandwidths are very similar to a T1 line, 1.5 megabits per second for 3G, and cable broadband 10 megabits per second for 4G. Number 4. Satellite. Two-way satellite transmission is popular with retail stores and any remote locations. Bandwidth has been similar to 3G, but is now available at 4G levels. You put a dish on the roof, and you have broadband virtually anywhere. One limitation is that heavy rain and snow can interrupt service. Note that these first 4 bandwidth options are the lowest cost you can find, but have some important limitations. They are shared bandwidth, which means that your speed will vary depending on what other users are doing. Both satellite and fixed wireless have monthly download limits. Most are asymmetrical, which means that download speeds may be 10 times upload speeds. This works well for typical internet access, which is what they're designed for. Geosynchronous satellite also has high latency, that's a time delay, that makes it unsuitable for real-time applications like VoIP. Service reliability and speed of repair typically fall short of what you get with dedicated telecom services. Let's take a look at those dedicated telecom services now. Number 5. T1 lines and bonded T1. T1 has been the workhorse of business connectivity. The bandwidth is limited to 1.5 megabits per second. It's now too low for many applications. Bonding T1 lines together can create a larger pipe, up to 10 megabits per second. They're available just about anywhere you can get landline telephone service. Popular as a point-to-point service, internet access, or PBX telephone trunking. Number 6. Ethernet over copper. The new competitor to T1. It uses the same telco lines as bonded T1, but a different transmission technology. Bandwidths range from 3 to 50 megabits per second typically, with some installations capable of 100 megabits per second or more. The trade-off is distance. Bandwidth drops off as you get farther away from the telco office. Cost is usually lower than bonded T1, sometimes half as much. This can be point-to-point, point-to-multipoint, or internet access. Number 7. DS3. This is a hybrid between fiber and copper. The service is delivered to the curb over fiber optic line, but then connected via coaxial cable. It runs at 45 megabits per second. It's a well-established service that is available in many locations, but losing out to less expensive Ethernet copper and fiber services in many areas. It can be point-to-point or internet access. Number 8, OC3, OC12, and OC48. These are traditional fiber optic services using SONET technology developed by the telephone companies. OC3 is entry-level at 155 megabits per second. OC12 takes you up to 622 megabits per second, and OC48 is 2.4 gigabits per second for businesses needing very high bandwidth. SONET is well established and available from multiple vendors within metro areas. It's not generally available in rural areas. It's point-to-point or internet access. Number 9, Ethernet over fiber. Like Ethernet over copper, fiber is taking over from T1 lines, even DS3, and it's now the new competing service to SONET. Bandwidth is highly scalable between 10 megabits per second and 10 gigabits per second, with 100 megabits per second and 1000 megabits per second as popular service levels. Cost is generally lower than SONET, and making changes is easier and faster. Also, EOF supports Ethernet services like E-Line and E-LAN. It can be point-to-point, point-to-multipoint, or internet access. Number 10, microwave fixed wireless. Like 3G cellular, no landlines or fiber are needed. This is strictly a point-to-point wireless connection using licensed microwave band frequencies. It's limited to line of sight from provider to an outside antenna on your building. High bandwidths of up to 100 megabits per second or more are available, but generally only downtown in major metropolitan areas. Number 11, wavelength service. This gives you a dedicated color or independent channel on the laser beam. Bandwidth is typically 2.5, 5, or 10 gigabits per second. You can choose the protocol you want to run, including IP and TDM. Bandwidths of 40 and 100 gigabits per second are now becoming available for very demanding applications. Number 12, dark fiber. Have all the wavelengths to yourself when you lease an unlit fiber strand between two locations. The ultimate in bandwidth and flexibility, but you have to provide and maintain the terminal equipment on each end. This is for the most sophisticated users only. Number 13, MPLS networks. Not an access service, but rather a way to connect many business locations in a regional, national, or international area. Think of MPLS as a private version of the Internet. You have guaranteed bandwidth with class of service, also high security because there is no public access. Note that all of the services from number 5 on, these are the dedicated telecom services, they're considered professional telecom services that often come with service level agreements that guarantee performance. Bandwidth is dedicated, not shared, and it's symmetrical. If performance is more important than bargain basement pricing, these are the services you should be considering. If your needs are modest and you just want a connection to the internet for email and web access, then lower-end options may well meet your needs. Not sure how to choose the best bandwidth for your operation or how to find vendors for all these services? Get fast quotes on multiple bandwidth technology services for your business locations, plus recommendations from a bandwidth product specialist. You can call toll-free 888-848-8749 or visit telexplainer.net to get the latest bandwidth prices instantly online.